Everyone remembers that show they watched that seemed like it was made for them personally. The characters meant so much to them, and the actors who portrayed them felt like family. The jokes always hit, and the sad moments left them in tatters. The problem with the world is that those shows are rarely the ones that last. It's just a cruel twist of fate that they seem to go on for 1 or 2 seasons, and then get cancelled. Trying to explain to people why a show getting canceled is a big deal, and having them respond, "I've never heard of that show," is just absolutely devastating. Perhaps this is overselling the fact that some beloved shows get canceled and then forgotten, but the ones that are important to a person never die. And maybe some of these largely forgotten 90s shows hit home the same way for some. So, in this video, we're going to be going over the top 10 forgotten Fox TV shows, because this is my life, and y'all are going to have to deal with it. And maybe you'll watch it, who knows. The first show we're talking about is called Millennium, not to be confused with the Robbie Williams song. That's right, I've become a Robbie Williams fan. The hyperfixation, bring it on! You thought the Britpop thing was going to go away? No. Blur, Oasis, now Robbie Williams. Girls who like boys who dig girls who dig boys who dig boys.
Looking for girls who are boys who like boys who dig girls who dig boys like their girls who dig girls like their boys.
Anyways, fans knew they were set to get a version of horror and sci-fi when Chris Carter made a new show after the success of X-Files, which he created. Millennium followed Lance Henriksen's Frank Black, who was a former FBI agent with the gift of being able to see into other people's minds. Ooh. Anyways, he uses his talent to read the minds of serial killers and murderers and help the mysterious Millennium Group, which he freelances for, catch the criminals. Frank's daughter Jordan also has some of his gifts, which I guess is kind of cliche for some shows. An example, I guess, in the top of my head is That's So Raven. When they made the sequel show Raven's Home, I think her son got her gift. I didn't watch the show, I don't know. The show is filled with mystery and intrigue, similar to the X-Files, where nothing is what it seems, but Millennium began with high ratings, and then the show, its interest, it just petered off after the first few seasons or whatever, and ultimately was canceled after the third, so I don't know why I said few seasons, but anyways, the X-Files actually ended up running an episode in season 7, featuring Frank and the Millennium Group to provide closure for the storylines, which I think is kind of cool. I think some shows do that sometimes, when like the spin-off show gets canceled, and to provide closure, you bring it back into the OG show it was spun off from, unless you're Pretty Little Liars Ravenswood, which we're not talking about that. The next show we're talking about is called Strange Luck. Now, let's put things into perspective. You see, D.B. Sweeney had come off of a string of films that had received low ratings and poor box office returns when he tried his hand at TV in Strange Luck. The show featured him as a character named Chance Harper, a freelance photographer who frequently finds himself in precarious situations. He always seems to, luck out and be where he might be needed, and the show follows him each week, helping to save someone or talk his way out of a tight spot. The sci-fi elements of the show feature prominently, as Harper was a lone survivor of a plane crash when he was a child. The series featured a bunch of actors I don't know the names of, and the show only ran for 17 episodes before it was cancelled due to low ratings. Herman's Head starred William Ragsdale as Herman Brooks, a research assistant at a magazine publisher. But the main story of the series is what's going on inside his head, as the show featured his 4 emotions reacting to different situations. So basically think Inside Out, but for adults, as the 4 emotions were lust, sensitivity, genius, and anxiety. The show also featured Hank Azaria as Herman's best friend, Hetty Newman as a co-worker of his, and then Jason Bernard as his boss, and Yardley Smith as the secretary in his office. So, 2 Simpsons actors in this show. Alright. The series also featured cameos from actors like Bobcat Goldthwait and Leslie Nielsen during its run, and the show only ran for 3 seasons and ended up getting canceled, which for some reason MovieWeb doesn't say why, but I don't think I actually want to know because I don't actually care. Chris Elliott had been a staple on TV since the early 1980s, having been a production assistant and a writer and a key actor on The Late Night with David Letterman. And after a successful run on the series, he had several TV roles before starring in the show Get a Life, which he created alongside Adam Resnick and David Merkin. Bob Odenkirk and Charlie Kaufman were actually both stars in the series, and Chris Elliott starred in his own show as Chris Peterson, a childish paper boy who still lives above his parents' garage in St. Paul, Minnesota. Funnily enough, Chris Elliott got his own dad to star in the show, and he got some people in the show that I don't know of. In season 2, he moves out of his parents' house and into the garage of his, I think, friends. I don't know. This show was basically silly and irrelevant and was canceled after 2 seasons, and that's all you need to know about this show. It sounds awful. Before we move on to the final part of this list, you guys should know that I actually cut some shows out of this list. One of them I talked about already in the vampire one. The second one was the Ben Stiller show, which I was like, excuse me? Third one was Briscoe County Jr., which I already talked about Briscoe County Jr., and I love Bruce Campbell. Fourth one was Parker Lewis Can't Lose, and I think that was all the shows I cut. I'm gonna have to look back in the editing. Okie dokie, so the final show on our list is called New York Undercover. With Law & Order being one of the most successful series of all time, Fox tried their hand at a Dick Wolf-created series with New York Undercover. The series actually only ran for 4 seasons and focused on New York City's 4th Precinct. It starred, people I don't know as J.C. Williams and Eddie Torres, 2 undercover cops who many of the storylines focused on. It was also notable for being the first police drama to feature 2 African-American lead actors, and the show also featured more actors I don't know, and, actually, one of the actors in this show, I'm trying to check here, Malik Yoba was the only star who remained on the series for the entirety of its run. New York Undercover featured many actors who appear in multiple different roles as different characters, which is a staple of crime dramas like Law & Order. And that was all the forgotten Fox shows you didn't know about. Of course, I left out some Fox shows that you definitely know about if you're subscribed to me. But if you're not subscribed to me, you probably should, because I'm pretty cool.
You're counting on the sheep.